I bought the cheapest electric flying surfboard on the internet. From a site known for knocking off products and questionable quality. But it was the cheapest Efoil by a landslide, so I had to risk it. And after 9 months of a group chat getting sent pictures of random people's boards being built, mine arrived. And it actually worked. It was so much fun that I immediately became obsessed with the sport. I made a video about it and it went viral. Well, medium viral. Anyway, when you build a board for a fraction of the price, you need to cut corners and use cheaper components. So, after 3 years of use, hundreds of miles ridden, and plenty of crashes, does my Alibaba Efoil still work? And if it does still work, can I make it 99% better for free? Well, for almost free if you think about all of the quality engineered parts I'm going to make with that thing. My first 2 summers with this board were actually great, and this kind of janky battery here didn't even burn my house down.
If they just would have put a fuse in this, it wouldn't do this every time you connect it.
But when I took it out for the first time this year, the motor kind of just locks up and it launches me. I think this could be happening because water is getting into my motor. Over the years, this sealant over these holes in the back of the motor have dried up and shrunk, and it looks like water could get in here, which probably isn't good. And the way that they waterproofed the receiver on this board for the remote control is just by covering it in epoxy. And I think it's possible that that's not watertight. So I have my silicone here, and I have the most waterproof thing I could think of. And I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes. I think I can fix my Chinese electric surfboard with caulk and a... Yeah, this would definitely be better if it was black, but white's all I got. Oh, I forgot how heavy you are. After letting everything dry, I headed back to the lake. And besides the gaps in my motor seals, this is the only real damage on the functional parts of this board. On this flight, I want to see if I fixed my lockup issue, and starting with a fully charged battery, I'm going to see my distance and top speed to see if my battery has degraded much over the years.
And hopefully we won't get abandoned in the middle of the lake on this Chinese surfboard.
As you could probably imagine, it's pretty hard to film yourself do this sport, so I put my GoPro on a buoy on horizon lock mode, and maybe that footage will be watchable. I'm going to start off with the top speed test because this thing definitely gets slower as the battery gets drained. Let's see if I can't make a pass before the GoPro falls. And the top speed was 15.3 knots or 17.6 miles an hour, which is pretty on par with what this thing could do when it was brand new. So let's keep ripping until this battery is completely dead and see if we still get around 10 miles, which is what it did right out of the box. So I rode down the coastline for 3.5 miles, full throttle, with 0 problems. So I think this thing is fixed, but I also think that this polarizer isn't waterproof, but I have an idea. Maybe I can film with my phone and leave it out if this will float my phone. Only one way to find out. I got another one on camera. I was just about to make a joke. Holy smokes. Maybe it's just something I'm doing wrong. Because I've had it full throttle, not going in the water for like 5 miles. Wow. Playing back the footage, I think what's happening here is my leash is dragging. You can clearly hear it hit a wave here. And when this leash pulls off, it's a safety feature that disengages the power. Now, this never used to happen, but it makes sense that this magnet would lose its power over time. I really think this is my issue, and it's a super easy fix. This is the best part about Efoil, and right here. The water's a little rough, you don't even notice. And you're just flying under the train bridge. The best way to describe the feeling to people I've realized who've snowboarded, it's like powder tree riding every day. Even if it's choppy, doesn't matter. Don't even feel it. Fantastic. We've been at it for 7 miles. We've been in the water for an hour, and we're at 30% battery. We've been at it for 8.5 miles, and it's starting to go so slow I can't even fly. I'm turning around. Maybe I decided to turn around a little too late. We're about to find out. I think we've hit next level limp mode. The remote says 0. I've never actually run this all the way out before, so I don't know what to expect. But we are so close to the dock. I could swim from here if I have to, but I don't want to. It's going incredibly slow. I've never run it out all the way before, so I don't know what to expect. But it's at 0%. And see that darker sailboat mast? That's as far as we need to go. 8.75 miles, 100 feet from the dock is where this thing gave up. It couldn't have made it just a little bit longer. But in almost an hour, 20 minutes of riding.
Oh man, oh.
Battery's warm, is to be expected. Controller is not the slightest bit warm. My receiver ripped. No. I have gone maybe a mile an hour too faster than this as a top speed, and I know that I have done 10 miles before. But depending on conditions and how I was riding the board, this number varies a lot. So I really don't think the battery has degraded much over the years, which is great because the battery is the most expensive part and the part that I figured the manufacturers would have cheaped out on the most. So now I know that my Alibaba board isn't broken. I just need a stronger magnet so this doesn't happen again. And I have a benchmark. So any parts I make for this board with a new 3D printer, I'll know how much of an improvement I made. And this is what I think I can improve upon. You see, the Alibaba board has this really big prop shroud that is generating a lot of drag. I think it's slowing me down, ruining my efficiency. Whereas you can see the top of the line lift board has this very small prop shroud. And at the highest performance levels, these boards have removable prop shrouds so you can get the most speed and the most efficiency. But the biggest difference is how this actually feels when you are in the water. I've been told it's like putting a small parachute behind a hang glider having a prop shroud. It's creating all of this drag behind the wing, and it makes the board feel more stable, but it's not loose enough to really carve and have a whole lot of fun once you get good at riding one of these boards. Whereas with the top of the line Lift V4 setup without the prop guard, I feel really loose, like I can carve like a regular surfboard, and that is one of the most fun parts about these boards, is just being able to carve like you're surfing, flying above the water. The only problem is I have no idea how to do the design software or use the 3D printer. So I'm gonna head to some YouTube tutorials. I ended up downloading Fusion 360 because it's free, there's a bunch of good tutorials on it, and it's what we use at Grindhard for the Arc Droid. It actually seemed really intuitive and straightforward, and I wasn't worried about it. So I went straight to removing the prop shroud and the prop so that I could make my measurements for my prop shroud delete kit. The way the prop mounts in place is super simple, so I think I can model this very easily. I'll have to 3D print one of these as well if my first experiment goes well. Holy! What is this made out of? It's so thick and heavy. Next, it was time to measure exactly how big this part needs to be. It's just going to be a cone going from the end of the motor to the beginning of the prop, but I need to make the inner diameter perfect so it will slide over and still be strong. And I also need to make sure that these 4 long screws are going to go back in the perfect position. While I was at it, I thought I had a genius idea to make this thing not look terrible with my white silicone, and yeah, that didn't work. I think I might have even messed up my marker for good. But I had all the measurements that I needed, and it was time to figure out how to design my own parts. This process took about an hour with needing to look up basically everything that I needed to do, but I think I'm gonna pick up this software pretty quick. It's pretty straightforward. While the printer updates, I brought it into the Bamboo Studio and made this support structure so that when it prints the higher level of this shroud delete, where it steps from this, then it'll be supported, I think. We're about to find out. All right, this is my first print with something I designed. Does it estimate how long it's going to take? Oh, 45 minutes. Oh, and it even shows you the weight. 26.97 grams. Weight reduction where it's most important. No way. That's my part. It's really just the super sophisticated hot glue gun. This is just on regular speed mode. It's going crazy fast. But I realized I need a more stable desk. You can see the plants shaking. Done, and it looks good. And it's asking me some questions. No. Can I just yoink it? Next, it was time to remove the support, and I knew something that was exactly the right size. My first attempt actually fit perfectly, but I forgot to take into account the head of the screws. So it was back to the drawing board. All right, here's version 2, moment of truth. That's more like it. It's a little less than perfect. With this lip sticking out, a tiny bit of cavitation might occur, but it's so much better than what was there before. The bolts sucked in just a little bit like it would in softer wood, so it's actually pretty perfect. I didn't have a wall thick enough here. The edge of this is basically touching what's underneath it, so I'll have to fix that in the final version that I'll print black. But as long as there's enough room for the prop to fit on there with that little catch, we can test this thing. Now I'm headed back to the lake with a fully charged battery so I can try and beat this distance and beat the top speed of 17.6 miles an hour. And after seeing these two pieces next to each other, I think we're going to get some significant gains. This completely changed the ride. It is super smooth, way faster. I can tell already it's going to get a lot more range. The clearances are good. I don't hear any rubbing at all. So far it's a huge win. It's just time to put down a whole ride and see how much faster it can go and how much further it can go. My impressions so far, definitely faster. It must be more efficient, but it's a big but. It is significantly harder to ride. It actually has speed wobbles. We're 3.7 miles in and we are still at 80%. This might be like a 20 to 35% efficiency boost plus top speed. Wow, I cannot believe it made that big of a difference. Now this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time.
Things are improving outside as we speak. It was gray at times, and we saw some blue skies. You saw the sun for the first time in a while. Put together a list for you because things are getting better, and we're going to watch them continue to get better.
Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but I found you. The sailboats are out tonight. It's awesome. We are at 6.2 miles and exactly 50% battery. Something I just now noticed is it is also significantly quieter. You almost can't hear it at all. That's cool. I arrived back on shore with 35% battery to spare and I went over 9 miles, averaging over a mile an hour faster than the last time I went out. So that means if I drained it down to 0, it would almost do 15 miles, and that's a 70% range increase. And the top speed number was even more surprising to me. At 23 miles an hour, I went over 6 miles an hour faster, which means my total gain for this one part is over 105%. I thought my 99% goal was lofty, but we hit it. And on shore, I figured out where my speed wobbles are coming from. There's just a gap between where my mast connects to my wings. And I guess I just couldn't go fast enough to notice this before. And another thing causing my instability is that I need to ride with the nose down. The wing on this board is facing up. Every other board I've ever seen is level with the water, and the most efficient way to ride it is with the board level with the water. But this one has so much lift that I'm fighting against it, and that fight is making it unstable. And it's really obvious when I saw this footage. So just taking that front wing from an angle to flat, I think would make a huge difference in the rideability. Also, I can experiment with different props. I think that this prop having square ends is shooting water out instead of back. And that's just a guess because every other prop I've seen comes to a point, and you would imagine that's more efficient and generating more thrust backwards. But what I really need to decide now is if it is worth it. So let me know in the comments if you want to see me make this board as good as it can be, or if you want me to move on to the next one and experiment with something else. I'm 50-50 right now. Thanks for watching.